Blue Umbrella, Chapter 2. Binya seldom closed the umbrella. Even when she had it in the house, she left it laying open in a corner of the room. Sometimes Biju snapped it shut, complaining that it got in the way. She would open it again a little later. It wasn't beautiful when it was closed. Whenever Binya went out, whether it was to graze the cows, or fetch water from the spring, or to carry milk to the little tea shop on the Tehri road, she took her umbrella with her. That patch of sky blue silk could always be seen on the hillside. Old Ram Bharosa kept the tea shop on Tehri road. It was a dusty, unmetalled road. Once a day, the Tehri bus stopped near his shop and passengers got down to sip hot tea or drink a glass of curds. He kept a few bottles of Coca-Cola too, but as there was no ice, the bottles got hot in the sun and were seldom opened. He also kept sweets and toffees, and when Binya and Biju had a few coins to spare, they would spend them at the shop. It was only a mile from the village. Ram Bharosa was astonished to see Binya's umbrella.
What do you have there, Binya?
Binya gave the umbrella a twirl and smiled at Ram Bharosa. She was always ready with her smile and would willingly have lent it to anyone who was feeling unhappy.
That's a lady's umbrella. That's only for Mame Subs. Where did you get it?
Someone gave it to me for my necklace.
You exchanged it for your lucky claw?
Binya nodded.
But what do you need it for? The sun isn't hot enough and it isn't meant for the rain. It's just a pretty thing for rich ladies to play with.
Binya nodded and smiled again. Ram Bharosa was quite right. It was just a beautiful plaything. And that was exactly why she had fallen in love with it.
I have an idea. It's no use to you, that umbrella. Why not sell it to me? I'll give you 5 rupees for it.
It's worth 15.
Well then, I'll give you 10.
Binya laughed and shook her head.
12 rupees,
said Ram Bharosa, but without much hope. Binya placed a 5 paise coin on the counter.
I came for a toffee.
Ram Bharosa pulled at his drooping whiskers, gave Binya a weary look, and placed a toffee in the palm of her hand. He watched Binya as she walked along the dusty street. The blue umbrella held him fascinated, and he stared after it until it was out of sight. The villagers used this road to go to the market town. Some used the bus, a few rode on mules. Most people walked. Today, everyone on the road turned their heads to stare at the girl with the bright blue umbrella. Binya sat down in the shade of a pine tree. The umbrella, still open, lay beside her. She cradled her head in her arms and presently dozed off. It was that kind of day, sleepily warm and summery, and while she slept, a wind sprang up. It came quietly, swishing gently through the trees, humming softly. Then it was joined by other random gusts bustling over the top of the mountains. The trees shook their head and came to life. The wind fanned Binya's cheeks. The umbrella stirred on the grass. The wind grew stronger, picking up dead leaves and sending them spinning and swirling through the air. It got into the umbrella and began to drag it over the grass. Suddenly it lifted the umbrella and carried it about 6 feet from the sleeping girl. The sound woke Binya. She was on her feet immediately, and then she was leaping down the steep slope. But just as she was within the reach of the umbrella, the wind picked it up again and carried it further downhill. The wind was in a wicked, playful mood. It would leave the umbrella alone for a few moments, but as soon as Binya came near, it would pick up the umbrella again and send it bouncing, floating, dancing away from her. The hill grew steeper. Binya knew that after 20 yards it would fall away in a precipice. She ran faster and the wind ran with her, ahead of her, and the blue umbrella stayed up with the wind. A fresh gust picked it up and carried it to the very edge of the cliff. There, it balanced for a few seconds before toppling over out of sight. Binya ran to the edge of the cliff. Going down on her hands and knees, she peered down the cliff face. About 100 feet below, a small stream rushed between great boulders. Hardly anything grew on the cliff face, just a few stunted bushes, and halfway down, a wild cherry tree growing crookedly out of the rocks and hanging across the chasm. The umbrella had stuck in the cherry tree. Binya didn't hesitate. She must have been timid with strangers, but she was at home on the hillside. She stuck her bare leg over the edge of the cliff and began climbing down. She kept her face to the hillside, feeling her way with her feet, only changing her handhold when she knew her feet were secure. Sometimes she held on to the thorny bilberry bushes, but she did not trust the other plants, which came away very easily. Loose stones rattled down the cliff. Once on their way, the stones did not stop until they reached the bottom of the hill, and they took other stones with them, so that there was soon a cascade of stones, and Binya had to be very careful not to start a landslide. As agile as a mountain goat, she did not take more than 5 minutes to reach the crooked cherry tree. But the most difficult task remained. She had to crawl along the trunk of the tree, which stood out at right angles from the cliff. Only by doing this could she reach the trapped umbrella. Binya felt no fear when climbing trees. She was proud of the fact that she could climb them as well as Biju. Gripping through the rough cherry bark with her toes, using her knees as leverage, she crawled along the trunk of the protecting tree until she was almost within reach of the umbrella. She noticed with dismay that the blue cloth was torn in a couple of places. She looked down, and it was only then that she felt afraid. She was right over the chasm, balanced precariously about 8 feet above the boulder-strewn stream. Looking down, she felt quite dizzy. Her hands shook and the tree shook too. If she slipped now, there was only one direction in which she could fall. Down, down, into the depths of that dark and shadowy ravine. There was only one thing to do. Concentrate on the patch of blue just a couple of feet away from her. She did not look down or up, but straight ahead, and willing herself forward, she managed to reach the umbrella. She could not crawl back with it in her hands. After dislodging it from the forked branch in which it had stuck, she let it fall, still open, into the ravine below. Cushioned by the wind, the umbrella floated serenely downwards, landing in a thicket of nettles. Binya crawled back along the trunk of the cherry tree. 20 minutes later, she emerged from the nettled clump, her precious umbrella held aloft. She had nettle stings all over her legs, but she was hardly aware of the smarting. She was as immune to nettles as Biju was to bees.